Hello, both sides of the conversation family. We welcome you to this virtual space crafted especially for you. My name is Jada Curry, and I'm both sides of the conversation's marketing director and graphics design specialist. I want to take some time to ground us all as a community into this space we are about to open up in, so let's go through our community standards. Both sides of the conversation is providing a safe and honest space for open conversation, so we ask that you all be respectful of that. We also ask that you be respectful of each panelist, host, and participant. We do encourage healthy debates and conversations. Don't personalize anything with anyone. This includes name-calling, bullying, trolling, or shaming. This will not be allowed or tolerated. Your perspective is yours. It is not a prescription. You do not have to agree, but show respect. These community standards apply to all of our live shows and any virtual spaces that we hold on social media, including YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We want to make sure that we are caring for each other as a community. This is our priority in all of our endeavors as both sides of the conversation. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's show and continue to stay in touch with us via YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or all of them. All right, thank you for listening and see you soon.
Welcome, everybody, to Both Sides of the Conversation. I'm John Henry, Executive Director. Today is Sunday. You know what that means? It's game day, okay, community? The Niners is in the building, all right? We're doing our thing today on this Sunday, but we are excited because we are still here. Today is a very, very important conversation for community. We are talking about human trafficking. We have our youth team here, and they're going to be talking about human trafficking, some of the things that's going on. This should be a great conversation. We got a full house today, y'all. It's going to be cracking while the game is going on. You know, we don't stop. We don't let the football game stop the awareness and information that's going to community. But with that being said, okay, this Sunday is our Sunday conversation, and every Sunday we are here. I am John Henry, the Executive Director of Both Sides of the Conversation, also known as the Bishop to some of you who may not know. We are here every Sunday at 4 p.m. For our Sunday conversation. Great topics, great conversations. Hope you all are going to be able to enjoy a phenomenal show today. And every Tuesday, we have our Hidden Gem segment. And every Thursday, our Educational Thursday. You can find us here on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, on all of our social media handles at both sides of the conversation. So we're looking forward to today's show. Want to just say a couple of things. Condolences to the families out there. If you may have not heard, there was a mass shooting in LA that took place last night. 10 people were killed, 10 were injured. Again, our communities are being impacted again by gun violence in our community. Also, I want the community to be aware. I've been checking out social media, checking out some of the news handle. There has been an increase of officer involved beatings, shootings in this country. And again, community, we're going to have some conversation. It is not over yet. If y'all thought George Floyd was the last, there is a lot of concerning cases that's swirling around the news about police officer involved beatings and things of that nature. And we got to have a conversation about it because it's still happening in our community. So very disappointing news, but we are here today. With that being said, I got the people back with me. We got Khalees here. We got AR here. AR, Khalees, holla at the people.
Man, what's good, y'all? What's going on? And y'all better not be at the Niner game with y'all Raider gear on. I'm just telling you right now.
Hey, knock it off, AR.
One of my boys, he posted on Facebook talking about he going to Levi Stadium with a Raider hat. I said, you going like that? Looking
Raider
for problems.
Fans, stay home, Raider fans, okay?
This conversation is very important, so all should be tuned in.
Man, thank you very much. And y'all know, I know everybody's looking like, where's Pretty Tony at? Hey, she's flying back today. Pretty Tony is a Cowboys fan, okay? She didn't want to be here today to really hear all what's going on. But Pretty Tony, we love you. Hope you get back safe travels. But your Cowboys are going home today with an L, okay, Pretty Tony? We love you. We can't wait to see you back. But again, today is our Sunday conversation. We're talking about human trafficking. Should be some great pointers from our young people, community. Check us out. Talk to the young people. Listen to the young people. Y'all keep saying, we want to hear from the young people on these issues. Today, the youth are here. Listen to our youth. With that being said, we're going to start bringing up our youth leaders so they can go over the road announcements, the events, talk about the statistics, and the things they want to talk about today on the show. So with that being said, we're going to bring up my brother, Devin Ward. We're going to bring up Nia, and we're going to bring up Deja and Kendall, and they're going to introduce everybody and go over what's going on. Community, listen to the youth.
What's going on, community? It's a great day for a great conversation and also a great game. Let's go Niners. My name is Devin Ward from the Bay Area, 20 years old, attending Xavier University in New Orleans right now. And I'm going to get into – I'll let the rest of my team introduce themselves. Then we're going to get into the world announcements.
Hey, everyone. I'm Nia.
Hey, y'all. I'm Deja. I go to Clark.
Hey, y'all. I'm Kendall, and I go to Xavier University, Louisiana as well.
All right, let's get into the world announcements. So you heard that Google is laying off 12,000 workers, or about 6% of its workforce, becoming the latest tech company to trim staff as the economic boom that the industry rode during the COVID-19 pandemic. The CEO, Sundar Pichai, I'm not sure if I said that right, who also leads his parent company, Alphabet, informed staff Friday about the cuts in an email that was also posted on the company's news blog. A 13-year-old girl in Colorado was arrested after a 100-mile-per-hour highway chase. Nebraska state troopers arrested a 13-year-old driver from Colorado after a chase that topped 100 miles per hour along an interstate highway earlier this week. Y'all, we have got to slow down. An LSU basketball player, Flavu J. Johnson, not sure if I said her name right, she addressed the critics after her recent game. The critics call her too ghetto or too hood, which she states on Twitter, I'm okay with that. I'm from Baltimore, where you hoop outside and talk trash. If it was a boy, y'all wouldn't be saying nothing at all. Let's normalize women showing passion for the game. And I think this is so true. We stand with her in unity. We can hoop too, if not, women can hoop too, if not better. Plus, she is in the running for SEC Freshman Player of the Year. Back to Twitter. Twitter is starting to auction off assets from its San Francisco headquarters after being behind on rent. Items such as coffee makers, TVs, espresso machines, designer chairs, bike-powered recharging stations, Twitter statues, and more. This is very interesting. Is San Francisco becoming too expensive for businesses? Did Elon Musk turn the company into a negative slope? We'll be paying attention and looking out for more updates. As mentioned earlier, the San Francisco 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys, the game is today, happening right now. It has been called the most expensive game the most expensive game of all time in the divisional league. Ticket prices average around $1,420, and standing room is around $606. We anticipate this to be a good game, and we expect, of course, San Francisco to win. In addition to that, San Francisco Reparations Committee proposed $5 million to each long-term Black resident and will grant total debt forgiveness due to decades of systematic repression. Excuse me. This is so important for our community, and we hope it pushes through. We will be paying close attention for updates. And with that being said, I'll hand it over to Nia Rouse.
Hey everyone, I'll be doing the community events. So first we have Saturday Family Fun Day, field trips, sporting events, and much more. Every second and fourth Saturday. For more information, email sfrebels1990@gmail.com. The celebration of Black history and culture of the Tenderloin is on Wednesday, January 25th, 2023, from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. at Piano Fight, 144 Taylor Street in San Francisco. There will be a celebration of community ambassadors, presentations, free dining, live music, and a tour. The Housing Resources event at Southeast Community Center is on Friday, January 27th, 2023, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. There will be guest speakers, food, and resources. The address is 1550 Evans Avenue in San Francisco. The San Francisco Planning Department is currently looking for 12 bright, enthusiastic interns to work full-time with the staff on a variety of planning projects this summer, from June 5th, 2023 through August 25th, 2023. The application must be submitted online by January 27th, 2023 at www.sfplanning.org. The 13th annual the 13th annual Bayview Black History Month and Lunar New Year's celebration is Saturday, January 28th, 2023 from 11 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the Bayview YMCA, 1601 Lane Street in San Francisco. There will be cultural performances, a toy drive, games, raffle, food, and community resource information. The second annual Give Back Day at Gilman Park is on February 4th, 2023 from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The event is hosted by Kesh Cares and Remy Creations. They will be giving away food, hygiene products, blankets, and socks. BSOTC is hosting our second annual African American History Bowling event. Please save the date for February 18th, 2023 from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. in Pacifica at Seabowl. This event will be full of fun networking, community partnership, good food, and bowling contests. Please register for this free event on Eventbrite. If interested in sponsorship or volunteering, please email info@bsotc.org. BSOTC is in search of volunteers. Our work is inspiring and feels good. We make a difference in the community with tangible results to show it. We are a highly driven group with a positive impact. We do our part in changing the narrative. Not only will you contribute to the community, but you'll also learn a lot and gain knowledge in your field of interest within the organization. We value your ideas and input. Sign up to be a volunteer today. You can make a difference. BSOTC Capacity Building Fundraiser is currently live. Please visit our GoFundMe page and make a donation today. Support BSOTC while you shop online. Amazon Smile donates 0.5% of your eligible purchases on Amazon to BSOTC. All you need to do is start your shopping at smile.amazon.com and choose BSOTC as your charitable organization, and the donation will be made at no extra cost to you. Go to all of our social media sites for more news on how to give back to your community and ways to support BSOTC. And now I hand it over to Deja for the stats.
Hey y'all, I'm back with the stats. So today our topic of our conversation is real deep. It's about human trafficking. So the statistics for that are like 24.9 million people are victims of forced labor. 4.8 million people are trafficked for forced sexual exploitation. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by human trafficking, accounting for 71% of all victims. Forced labor in the private economy generates an estimated $150 billion in illegal profits per year. Migrant workers and indigenous people are particularly vulnerable to forced labor. 3.8 million adults are trafficked for forced sexual exploitation, and 1 million children are trafficked for commercial sexual exploitation. The top 10 cities known for human trafficking are Washington, D.C., Atlanta, Georgia, Orlando, Florida, Miami, Florida, Las Vegas, Nevada, Sacramento, California, St. Louis, Minnesota, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Columbus, Ohio, who they also tied with Richmond, Virginia. In San Francisco alone, 70% of cases were individuals under the age of 25. 23% were minors, and 47% were youth between 18 and 24 years of age. The majority of reported cases were cisgender women. Only 20% were cisgender men, and 5% were transgender women, transgender men, or gender nonconforming. Overall, 70% of all reported cases were individuals who were people of color. The largest group of individuals were African Americans, followed closely by Hispanics and Latinos. 1/3 of individuals were born in the Bay Area. However, of those who were born outside of the United States, the largest number were born in Asia. That's crazy. Statistics don't lie. Now, Devin with the questions.
We're gonna hand to Candace to bring up our guest.
Hey, y'all. So this week we do have a full house, like John said. Our first guest is going to be Chelsea Dulcio. Our next guest we have is Sharice Bryant, and then somebody real familiar to me, David Jackson. And then I believe Miss Yolanda is going to be on here as well. If not, oh, yeah, it looks like these are all our guests.
Yeah, Brandy here too. Hold on. I got to move somebody back for 1 second. There go Brandy. You got a full house. Go ahead.
Got a full house. Thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate you being on here. Back to Devin for the questions to start us off. Oh, Devin is not on here.
That's all right, y'all. Let's just get started with what do we think human trafficking is, or what is the definition to y'all? What do you see it as in our communities? I just want to start off to that. That way we're all on the same page, on the same definition of what we're talking about here, because there's a lot of different terminologies under human trafficking, sex trafficking, and things like that. So if I could go ahead and take the lead on that. What do you think? What is human trafficking to you, or what does it mean?
I think we should let our guest go.
Guest.
To me, what it mean when you're being exploited, as far as you're being forced to do sexual acts, you're being forced to live a lifestyle that is not what you want to live. You're being forced to basically be exploited for the income of somebody else's.
I hear you. I would definitely agree with that. I've looked up the definition, and something that it says online that human trafficking is the practice of exploiting adults and children for use as commodities or objects in conditions of sexual and labor servitude. So you're like right on the dot with that.
I agree. Being a survivor myself, human trafficking can be it's very mentally powerful, and it's very it's like a chain and ball, right? Because I notice even with women who get out of it, you notice that the percentage, a lot of them go back in. So human trafficking can affect a person's mental state of mind and who they are and their value, if that makes sense.
Well, sorry, me myself didn't know you were a survivor. Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Does anybody else have a different definition?
Can you all hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, so if we look according to the law, uses a word consent, right, or willful consent, and so they separate trafficking and prostitution by that phrase, willful consent, right? So they typically say if you're being trafficked, it's against your willful consent. Uh, by way of prostitution, they say is willful consent. The reality is, oftentimes both are against one's willful consent. And so, if you notice, someone read the statistics about the top 10 cities where human trafficking and sexual exploitation is the most prevalent, most of those are state capitals. And so the reason why many of our laws and policies um, haven't been activated or come into full effect is because the minute you really take off the scab of sexual exploitation and human trafficking, you'll see how deeply invested the government and government officials are involved. So as we start to solve and bring resolution to sexual exploitation and human trafficking, you'll also see how many folks in city, state, and federal government are involved in the exploitation of our young people and our adults.
Yeah. Can you kind of go a little bit deeper into that? I'm a little curious. So, have you seen anything specifically in not necessarily in our community, but what do you mean as far as the government being invested? Like there are people that are involved in the sexual exploit. Like, explain that a little bit more.
Sure. If you go back to the drug trade in the early early 80s, um, you'll notice that the federal government funded not just the arms, but the drug trade coming over into the U.S. It's $150 billion global net profit on human trafficking and sexual exploitation. And so with that, there are deals, and there's public record about it. There are deals that are made with government officials and government officials from other countries that give license to bringing folks over to the U.S. There's special permitting for many of the massage parlors. There is licenses given to small businesses that are fronts for human trafficking and sexual exploitation. And so there's like tons of articles where this has been revealed, not just let's say a mayor that got caught with with pictures or got caught soliciting a prostitute, but it goes so much deeper than that. And and the media, the mass media, doesn't want folks to know how deeply embedded um, many local and federal government officials are in this human trafficking trade. Everything is involved, from your plants in China and the goods and products that we consume. Like all of that is a part of the global human trafficking industry.
I actually saw something about I just had to look it up right now because I saw it a few weeks ago, and it was about JP Morgan being sued because I guess they turned a blind eye to Jeffrey Epstein, um who took place or whatever, like funding it or whatever, but they had evidence against them supporting sex trafficking in like the Virgin Islands or something like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy because we really don't know how high up it goes. Like we do, like not we, but like us as like civilians do a lot of crime, but really the government, they do more than anybody, and we just don't know.
Yeah, it's funny. It's crazy that you say that, and thinking like I never thought about it down to the detail of like a massage parlor or small businesses partaking in human trafficking or sexual trafficking. So I want to propose the question: do you guys think if we follow the money, do you think we can follow where human trafficking is and how and go deeper in time trying to figure out solutions to doing that just by following the money of these businesses and where they're funding certain projects in cities?
it, if I can just maybe give some wisdom around that thought. Thank you, Devin, for that question. Like the origin of human trafficking goes back to 1525, right? So if we if we dive deeper, um, the slave voyage was that marked in 1525, where human trafficking began, right? And so um, our nation, our country, was built on human trafficking. They just called it something different, and so so it makes it convoluted when we weave human trafficking and sex exploitation in together. Just like if we look at diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, like we bring all these buzzwords together when human trafficking um, is so much different but has similarities to sexual exploitation. So I totally agree. If we start peeling back the onion, we'll see not only the origin of it, but we'll also see um, how organizations make an emphasis on resolving these issues. But when it gets to the government level, unless we take an aggressive, active stance on sexual exploitation and human trafficking, we won't move the needle because there's too much money. There's too much money involved, and then you'll start seeing cover-ups and all of that sort of thing. So maybe our focus is less about um, how do we resolve it. It's kind of like similar to racism, as opposed to what can we do now to prevent the next girl, the next boy, the next woman, the next man from being trafficked?
Kind of piggybacking off of that, what can you do to prevent? So I have a question for our younger audiences or for our younger members. Me personally, as a younger woman, I feel like walking down the street. Sometimes I have to, look behind my shoulder and stuff. They're small. There's times where I feel unsafe. So do you guys feel like sometimes you have to do the same thing? Do you feel like there's risks of being trafficked, especially when you're walking in certain areas by yourself, or have you guys kind of felt that fear? Of feeling like something is going to happen of that sort?
Definitely. There was this time, I wouldn't say, like, I don't know for sure if it was trafficking, like if the people were trying to traffic, but there was this time I was in Walmart walking around with my friend, and there was this man who was following us, and he had like a stack of paper plates or whatever. He was following us around the store, and we noticed him. So eventually, we had left the store, but when we were leaving, like we made sure to be aware of our surroundings. So we left the store, and as we got in the car, he was in a van, like kind of like a few parks away from us, and he just got in the car. He got in the van, and he didn't have the plates anymore. So we were like, we're thinking, that was kind of sketchy, but it's just crazy to think that you never really know. Like, so just keep, I guess you could say, eyes behind your head, because you never know.
I agree.
Responding. Sorry.
You go.
Responding to that question, there was something similar that I had to go through. For a few days, there was this Honda that would creep up behind me when I would be walking to school. And one day he did end up approaching me, and he just had asked me, he was asking me where I was going. He had asked me if he could have a conversation with me. And pretty much I had my backpack on, and I was walking towards my school. I was right beside my school. So he knew I was a minor. And then a couple months after that, I ended up seeing him again. And then he pulled to the side again, and he kept asking me to get in his car. And it was just a scary experience, I could say, because I never thought that I would have to see or experience anything like that in my life.
Facts. I was I in high school? I was probably maybe just graduated. It was probably during COVID actually. But I was at a gas station. It was kind of close to my high school. I was at a gas station. I had a couple friends in the car, and it was nighttime. And I was pumping the gas, and this car had put up behind me. But this particular gas station, you know how some gas stations, like the cars have to pull up behind you because there's another gas pump behind you. there was no pump. Like, it was another diesel machine for like the big trucks, and then there was another one, but it was kind of far. But he pulled up like right behind my car, and he had got out. He was like Mexican, and he had got out his car, and he was just like, "Oh, like, how do you get to San Francisco?" And I'm like, "The freeway's right there, like crossover overpass or whatever." And then he was like, "Oh, da da da." And then he just starts explaining to me how he got into it with his girlfriend and stuff. And then he was offering me beer, and I was like, "Oh no, I'm too young to drink or whatever." And then he just kept offering it to me. He was like, "I'll have some new beer." And then he went to his car, and I'm just looking, but I'm looking back at the people in my car, and they're not even paying attention. So I'm like, okay, so like if something was to happen, they wouldn't even know. And then he brought this open, half drinking beer, and he tried to offer me that, and I'm like, no, I don't drink. And then he was like, "Oh, can I have a hug?" I stopped pumping my gas, and I just put it back in the thing. He was like, "Can I have a hug?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "Oh, can you drive me to San Francisco?" I was like, "No." I was like, "No, no." And then I just hurried up and got my car, like my doors, and drove off. And then he followed me. He had passed the entrance. I had started going a whole different way. And I'm telling him what happened and who was in my car, and he's just following me, and I'm trying to get away. And then he ended up, I went like in a whole circle, like, but it was like a long circle, like for like 8 minutes. And then he ended up just getting on the freeway. But it was just crazy to me. I was like, I really could have been gone.
So I have a question. Did any of you report this, or what type of actions took place after that? I mean, I can only imagine the anxiety that you all felt, but what happened after that? After you went through this, what happened?
Nothing. That I think that's the thing too. It's nobody you can really tell, or you can tell people, but like it's like what can they do? You can share your story, but if it's not really, if you haven't really survived, I guess it's not a lot of people you can tell.
I agree. It's like, what are the police gonna say? If you do go to the police, you're just making a statement or whatever, or filing a report, but I didn't have nothing but a description.
I mean, but at the same time, you give that description, and then that saves the next girl at the gas station or the next girl at Walmart or whatever the case is from experiencing the same thing and maybe not getting away. So I feel like there's pros and cons. It could not do anything, or it could save the next person. You never know. Maybe they just watch out for that person instead of, obviously they can't arrest them for he say, she say, but they just watch out for them or something like that. I don't know. That's just my thought.
That's a good point.
Well, today somebody tried to run me off the road, and I spoke to the like I called the police or whatever, and I just gave them a description and all that. So that's what I did when it happened to me. They didn't really say much. I didn't have their license plate because it was just a lot going on. But yeah,
It was more than them running you off the road.
but that was the question, so that's why I didn't say all of that.
Okay, but we telling, so go ahead.
Okay, so basically, I come out of my cousin's subdivision to drop him off to work, and um, right when I leave, a car starts speeding up right next to me. It's a 2-lane, and I'm on the left lane, and they speed, basically trying to squeeze their way through the left lane. And then they start driving, and then I start speeding so I could get away. But then they start speeding, their car is faster than me, and they try to get in front of me. So then I stop and I reverse. I put the car in reverse. And there's cars coming like this way, but I'm driving like this, like backwards. And I don't even know, honestly. I'm still terrified, y'all. But so then the cars stop. But as other cars start coming, they stop. I mean, they just leave. And I was just like, I don't know. So I really don't know. I'm not sure if they was coming from somewhere else or if they see me come out the house, because this weekend I've been watching my cousins. So I've been home alone with my cousins, which I went back home. But yeah, so I'm not sure if they was watching me out. I'm not sure if they was watching me out the house or if they just happened to see me after I left the subdivision. I'm not sure. So that's another thing, like be more aware, because I just came from Target, and I'm like looking everywhere now, and like I don't play anymore. So
So I want to jump in here because we have Cherie here, who's a survivor. We got people in the community watching. I want people in the community to understand what they need to be looking for, how some of these folks are getting persuaded into human trafficking. Right now, there's a big incident that took place recently. A lot of folks are being dragged into cars. I want to get to some of that, how people are getting caught, swindled in it. We know a lot of folks are using social media as an access point to young people, young girls. And, I want to get into that. So maybe Cherie, you could jump in there on that, because again, this conversation is about bringing awareness to our community. We want to make sure that the mothers, the fathers are listening. All right. When we have young people who have access to internet, social media, phone calls, how are we protecting our young people? Parents out there, how are you monitoring your young people? How are you giving them the knowledge and information? I heard the young people talking about people trying to come up to them and talk to them. That's one way, right? The older guys going around the high schools trying to talk to the younger children because they in cars. That's one way. But what about the folks that's getting snatched off the streets, the ones who being swindled, people coming into their DMs saying, hey, I'm going to pay for you to fly out of state, right? Let's talk about some of those issues, how people get caught up, and then how do you get out? What's the signs? What are we looking for to help somebody who may be trafficked? So I'm going to leave it there. Cherie, you can jump in there, anybody else, but we want to make sure that this conversation is intentional and the people that are watching, okay? This is a serious, serious conversation. This is real. It's happening in our community too much. I want the mothers out there, the fathers out there. I know the game is on, okay? While the game is on, there's young people being trafficked on planes across this country. Pay attention, community. Let's go.
It's real simple. So what we're fighting for our kids, we're seeing Megan Thee Stallion, we're seeing Cardi B, we're seeing Gorilla. We're hearing them tell these little girls at a young age, get money, deal with these different type of men, be a certain type of way. So at this point, our youth is conditioned, right? So now they're wearing the lashes, the makeup, the weaves. They talk a certain language. They're moving a certain way. They're growing up entirely too fast. So they already conditioned to be like, well, if he gonna talk to me, I need some money. So now you got a 16, 15-year-old girl growing up entirely too fast on the internet, talking to who knows who. And it all stems from what they're seeing on TV, what they're conditioned to see, what they're learning. And then you got to take it as outside the TV. They're seeing the Gucci bags, the Louis Vuitton. They're seeing a facade. They're seeing a chain and ball, a luxury that looks good, but it's not good for your soul. It's simply just putting a mask on what it really is. So then you have the little girl talking to these dudes, you feel me? He got on these gold chains. It's a lot of the dynamics that people don't see. Like when you're not really monitoring your kids and what they're doing, when you're not letting your kids know that they're valued and that they're worth more, when they turn it on this TV and all they see is Megan Thee Stallion twerking and saying what you're supposed to be as a woman. This is what it is. A Black woman at that. This is what is glorified. It changes the dynamic of her thinking. So now you have a child who she's so influenced by the outside world. You get what I'm saying? She's so just like ready to be something that is not what you're supposed to be. We all know that, but it's what she sees. So when she sees that, it's kind of easy for a guy with a gold chain and throwing money aside to put on a facade to trick and lower this child into something that she has no clue on. Even the women, you have women who are being human trafficked or they're being sexually exploited, and they're so trapped in it mentally, they're willing to take the next person down with them because they're trapped inside of a facade. It's a mask. So my whole opinion, what I would tell parents is to be more aware of what your child is really watching. Be more aware of how she's dressing. Be more aware of what she looks up to. Be more aware of what's going on. Like a lot of times I notice parents like to act like they don't want to talk to their kids about sex, or they don't want to talk to their kids about the streets. You got to talk to your kids, because if you don't, the streets going to talk to them. You got to learn how to be real with your kids, because I notice a lot of times people feel like, oh, they too young. We living in a world where they're sexualizing kids. Literally, they're telling kids it's okay to be whatever sexuality at 5. They go into their schools, transsexuals, like they're beating you to the punch as a parent. So I just feel like for a parent, when you're trying to help your child, you need to be in your child and be proactive to talk to your child and let them know what's going on, what to watch out for. Let them know what's okay and what's not okay, the value of being a woman, the power and the gift and the blessing of being a woman, because we're not learning that. What we're learning is what you allow us to see on TV and the iPad and on the phone. That's what we see. So what do you think they're imitating half the time? That's just what I had to say about it.
Thank you. I really appreciate that, because it made me think too about the way that social media impacts sex trafficking and human trafficking too. What if somebody is lured through social media or Instagram, DMs, stuff like that? I feel like you see that really often with younger kids, 14, 15. Their DMs, they see things, especially like my age, you have the sex bots and the DMs and stuff, right? You see that all the time. People commenting on your stories and your posts and all that, right? But younger kids that don't know any better, that's all they see on social media. And it's easy, I feel like, for somebody to be lured through that. Somebody swiping up on your story, or you're too young to have Instagram and you have it anyways, and that's where somebody can get in contact with you. So I feel like, but how often do you guys think that social media plays a part in trafficking?
A lot. A lot. It happens a lot, especially with kids, because they're so like, this is that new era for that. When we were younger, you actually go out and you meet people, and when you meet people, you mingle. So it was a little different, the dynamics. Nowadays, that's what they do. They on Instagram, they on TikTok, they linking up, they meeting each other, they on Tinder, they on dating sites. It's becoming harder and harder to really help kids when they're so influenced by the phone. When you go out, you don't see people enjoying a party, they're on the phone. So it's like, you really got to monitor what's influencing these kids, because these kids they're just so ready to just live in this world that they have no idea what's out there. It's so many things that if you knew what was on that phone, even if you do age restriction, if you look at some of these cartoons and what's on TV, if you really knew what was on this TV and what they're conditioning these children to be like. I know you guys heard about the Balenciaga, how they were basically giving kids BDSM teddy bears to take pictures with. Like, what are they really what is the agenda that they're feeding our kids? That's just how I feel about it. I think it's not just social media, it's just the influence period of what we're around. Drugs it seems like everything to destroy you is just like up there in numbers. It goes viral. And I feel like we're not really paying attention of what we need to be feeding our youth, our kids, our children, telling them the ins and outs before this world do. Because it becomes tricky when we let the world do our job for us.
I, I agree, but I feel like it's the 21st century now. This not like back in the day where you had to go. You didn't have a phone. You didn't have to go knock on your crush's door and ask her parents to talk to her, or something like that. Now everybody's online dating. Like, that's what's in. So how do you know, like, who to talk to and who not to talk to, if that's what everybody's doing now?
It comes from, honestly, it truthfully comes from you getting the gift of discernment, but having people behind you, like your family, your friends. I've noticed that us as Christian children, us as family, we don't communicate with each other and equip each other for this war that we're going through the spiritual warfare and this battle in life. It's easy for me to tell you, oh, you just got to know. You need support. You need a woman that's been there. You need somebody that care about you. Y'all, it's a pack. What we're doing now is powerful because it equips you and it helps you go out in the world and be more vigilant. It's harder when you're trying to do everything by yourself. So really, it's about the community supporting each other. Everybody speaking out and stop being scared to be a testimony to help the next person along the way. That's all.
I think that's very powerful that you said that. I think that's more the conversation that we need to be had in our community. And one of the things that you talked about earlier about the influence of artists and things of that nature, but also when the young people talked about making complaints with the police, things not happening. I also think that's part of the problem, because what happens is we have a lot of trauma bonding in our community. So we do get these young women who are human trafficked. They were raped, different things happen, and nobody listened to them. And then what happens is they turn that hate from what happened to them, and then they lead other young people to go through that experience because nobody experienced what they experienced. And I see it a lot. Women who have had things happen to them that haven't healed, haven't been able to recover, those are the very ones encouraging younger girls to do some of the things that they've been through so that they could go through that experience. And I think that's very troubling in our community, because I see a lot of that encouragement going on. I hear older women, okay, telling their younger siblings and family members, yeah, go with him, he got money, and things of that nature, but not telling them the things that take place and happen. And I think that's something that we got to be careful with in our community, because too many times we have other women who are leading women into this terrible lifestyle. You hear from rappers like Cardi B and different things encouraging, stripping, encouraging, robbing people and doing things. And I think people say, oh, well, dudes do this, but I think it's very powerful when it comes from people in the industry. I know AR tap in about it. He's in the industry, but this is why I tell people, we have to watch what we say in our community. All right. And we have to get healing and help. And when things happen in our community, we have to have people who listen, because when no one listens, these very people are trying to find other people to make them go through that process so that somebody can hear their voice. So I'm glad you said that. I think that's very powerful. But yeah, we got to do something. It's something that we have to deal with in our community.
I think. Oh, sorry. Hello.
Yeah, you get that.
Okay, I think, and definitely, Sharice, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, thank you for sharing all of that insight, and the perspective that she gives is a female perspective, a mother's perspective, and so I'll give the flip side to it, because we we talk about it takes a village to raise a child, right? And so we as Black men, it's not just up to the Black woman, to the female, to talk to the girls, but we as Black men, we got to stand up and we got to talk to the girls, and we need to start checking these little knucklehead cats also, right? The ones that are influenced by the Mozzies and the Dirks and all of these folks that sensationalize pimping and pandering in that lifestyle, because they're also being raised up to be the next little Dirk or the next little Mozzie. And what is it like for us as my generation, older Black men, to start policing these parking lots and let folks know that there is a Black male presence in these streets that's not about, that type of life, but that's about the survival and the raising of our young people, and walking our girls, from the gym to the car, and doing all these things that we used to do when I was coming up. And now we as Black men, we find ourselves letting these things happen. We have to do more than check social media accounts and put privacy controls, and we can do that, and we have to be a physical force and a presence in these streets like we used to be.
Can I?
And then, you good?
All right, thank you. I'm sorry, you just spoke. Was it Ken? Jack? Oh, David. I'm sorry. Yeah, David. I just wanted to add to that. I think I've been doing a lot of listening, because I feel like this is something that I don't have a lot of experience with. Like, I hear about it, and as a man, I'm very protective of my sister. I'm protective of my girl. I'm protective of my mama. I'm protective of my cousins. My aunties, all that, right? But I think the biggest thing we could do as men is be positive influences for women, because in my experiences, like I've had like 4 girlfriends that have been raped, right? And all of them either didn't have a good relationship with their fathers, or they didn't have a father. And it was hella interesting to me, like, damn, like none of y'all got fathers. And I just hear these stories and how they all kind of, sound the same after a while. And I think that, if we could combat that, not that I think that everything that mainstream artists talk about is negative or contributes to what, a lot of these dudes are doing, but I think it's important to be an example of something that's different. And I think that's what David was getting at, was being an example of a stand-up man, a man that's going to work, he coming home, he's something in the house is broke, he gonna try to fix it, the kind of like the Carl Winslow, like kind of almost, right? Like somebody who's gonna be there basically. A man that's going to be there. He's going to protect his family. He's going to give game to his son. He's going to give game to his daughters. You know, somebody who's just in the community and that's about the community. You know, and I think it's important, you know, that women take extra measures. Like I always tell my I tell everybody, like, man, take extra measures when you're moving around. When you walk into the car, keep your head on the swivel, right? My pops taught me that when I was young. I'll never forget that. Keep your head on the swivel, man. You're paying attention. If you're walking up and you see an alley, you know, it might be smart enough. You might be smart to cross the street because you can't see what's going to pop out the alley, right? If you got to park somewhere and it's kind of funny, you know, you might want to park another block away because it might be safer where all the lights are at, right? It's just being aware of the situation you're putting yourself in. I think it's too easy to think about point A to B, but not think about everything that happens in between point A and point B, or point, you know, from B to C, you know. And the last thing I'll say is, I think we as a people, Black people, I think we sometimes like are too strong. And what I mean by that is, like, a lot of negative things will happen and we'll just keep it in and we won't share, we won't talk about it. And the problem is, it doesn't shed light on the bad that's out there, and it doesn't give people an opportunity to learn, you know, from some of the bad decisions that were made. Maybe, you know, people be hiding from their embarrassment, or maybe, you know, they don't want to be judged. But I think it's important to share these stories, you know, because now you got a whole generation of people who are going through the same things, and a lot of these stories could have just been told and people could have avoided it. You know, a lot of this could have been avoided. You know, they're not always going to listen, right? And a lot of the influences, unfortunately, do come from music, right? Like we were talking about this last week. You know, as much as parents want to influence and change the direction or direct the direction of their kids' lives, like they're not listening to y'all. They're not listening to y'all. They're not. They're listening to Dirk. They're listening to Megan Thee Stallion because they have an image of success. They have an image of having a lit life. You know, so I think the most important thing as a parent, you know, as I said last week, is listening to your kids. When they listen to something, don't just tell them don't listen to it. Ask them why they're listening to it. Ask them what attracts them about what they're listening to. If they want to be in the street, they want to be outside, they want to listen to Dirk, they want to listen to Mozzie, what attracts you about this music, right? What attracts you about that? Is that masculinity to you, right? Is that leadership to you? Is that the type of man that you would want to be with, young lady? Is that the type of man that you want to be for your family, young man? You know what I mean? Like, we got to ask questions to see how they think, right? I think oftentimes older generations, they too quick to want to teach. They too quick to want to direct, and they don't understand. Like, if you don't know what your students are thinking, you don't know how to direct their minds. That's all I say.
Wow, that was very powerful, AR. Very powerful. So I have a question. So, do you all believe that there are physical attributes that a young lady may possess that'll make her more attractive to these traffickers? Can you share that with me?
I definitely believe that. Yeah, I think so. Young ladies with, you know, heavier bodies, more of a shape, definitely attracts people, not just men, but boys their age. So that definitely plays a part.
I also think that, yes, I think that it attracts certain people, but I also think that shouldn't be used as a, you know, hide yourself or dress as modestly as you can. You shouldn't, although that's something that you should be aware of and don't do too much. I think that a lot of the time that point is used to deter people from expressing themselves and deter young women specifically from appreciating their bodies. And, you know, it's not their fault the way that they're shaped. So I think that there's two sides to that. You obviously should watch where you're going and how you're dressed. But I think that the way somebody's shaped shouldn't mean that they should be ashamed of the way that they look.
I gotta jump in, Kendall. I gotta say something. So I've had this conversation, right, over the years. And there's this song that goes, it's a man's world, right? It's a man's world, right? Y'all know. That's James Brown, right? That's James Brown, yeah.
Yes,
right?
James Brown.
Being a man's world. Now look, I will never right? Because you get beat up real quick. Black men, we know we'll get beat up real quick, right? I ain't gonna never tell her what, you don't tell her what to wear, but you give wisdom and guidelines based on the understanding of how a man views the world. And so while you can't change how your body looks, I guess what you're born with, I guess you could change it, I guess. But it's almost like if you dress in a way that invites attention, right? And then we have this climate with the height of sex trafficking and human trafficking and all types of forced labor and prostitution and kidnapping and rape and all that. If you're dressing in a way that's going to attract people, attract a lot of a sexual attention. There's a difference between dressing nice and attracting sexual attention, right? If you dressing in a way, and don't get me wrong, you could have on sweats and a man could still, undress you in his mind, right? But I'm talking about specifically women who are dressing in a way that's sexy, right? Hella sexy. I'm just gonna keep it real, right? And you attracting sexual attention. It's almost like, I don't think it's fair, right? I don't think it's fair, but I think it's something that women have to be aware of, because if you're trying to combat against somebody kidnapping you, following you, running you off the road, trying to drug you, trying to finesse you into driving them somewhere, it's like you can be in sweats and that happens. So it's almost like, what's the line? And maybe, women can get some feedback. What's the line that you draw in between dressing nice, feeling good, but not attracting that type of attention in a climate where it's really hella dangerous now?
Deacon AR, I'm glad you said that, okay? But we got to push back too. Because
I was just gonna push back.
We got to teach men in the community. It doesn't matter what a woman has on, right? We got to teach our young men about respect. We got to raise these young men, right? Because it shouldn't matter what a woman has on. It's something that we have to teach, because when we say that, we are police telling our women in our community. We got to teach our young brothers in the community that our women aren't objects. You get what I'm saying? We got to teach that as well. I'm agreeing with you that you said that, but we have to also highlight that. But what we really have to get into when we talk about why are these girls doing some of the things they're doing, we got to talk about the community, right? When we talk about the lack of resources, when we talk about the lack of fathers in the household, when we talk about the lack of mentorship, right? These are also things that play into some of the things that's going on, because these young girls are looking for their daddies. All right. We don't never talk about that. That's like you said, you dealt with 3 girls. It's a lot of that. It's abandonment issues. It's the mental health that we really got to address in our community that goes under the radar too many times when we're dealing with young women. The power of a father, a power of a male leader in our community that is missing is also part of the problem, because these young ladies are looking for male energy, looking for male positivity. And when they don't have it, what does love look like to them? You get what I'm saying? Go ahead,
and just to piggyback off of that, John, my kids showed me TikTok, right? So here I am on TikTok, maybe 2-3 o'clock in the morning. So I'm on TikTok, and as I go through TikTok, I know these young ladies are not of age. I see young girls in, it looks like bras and panties. I'm being frank with you, bras and panties, and they're showing a massive amount of skin. It makes me sick to the stomach, because I have a daughter, and it just scares me as to what they may be setting themselves up for. I'm just saying.
I can agree with that. And I think what, more to my point, it wasn't, go out and post yourself in bras and panties. That wasn't really my point. I was more saying, instead of teaching women to cover up more, teach men to stop, taking these women, stop, sexualizing these women, teach men to act accordingly, rather than teaching women, okay, cover yourself up and you can't enjoy who you are as a person. I'm not saying overly do it and, not respect yourself, because at that point, you're not really respecting yourself. If everybody can see it, you're not respecting who you are as a person. But that doesn't mean cover yourself up completely because of the shapes and curves that you have. That was more my point. As far as the clothes are concerned, that's like saying, when women get raped and men say, well, she shouldn't have had that skirt on. That's like saying that. So I feel like there's a line for sure. Like I think AR had said that there's
Well,
definitely a lot.
Kendall, here's the other thing. When we talking about educating our community, it's both ends, right? We got to deal with the males and the females. But the other thing is, how do we as community make these behaviors that's going on unacceptable? Because if you have a young girl who may be overweight, have insecurity issues, okay, and she see these girls who's half naked getting 350,000 people liking it, that's the attention. How do we as community say this is not acceptable? Men have a lot of power because women make these changes on their body. They post these things because they're looking for attention. How do we get the men in the community to say, look, if this is what you're doing, we're not going to like that? Because I guarantee you, if more men stick together and say, hey, sister, you disrespecting yourself, I'm not going to like that. I'm not going to encourage that. And this is why I'm saying the education and awareness is very important on both sides, for the males and the female. Where is the women at in the community? See, the problem is we have women out here teaching our young ladies early to be transactional. And this is how it starts. I've been in a family with full of women. And I've heard my own family tell the young lady, oh, get you a baller, get you a man with a car, get you a man with the money. When are we going to have that conversation, how we raise our young ladies in the community, and stop teaching our young girls to find men with money and things that material, superficial things, because that's part of the problem. So when you teach transactional behavior, this is the result of it. It's like having candy in the baby when you dangle it. When we was younger, it wasn't money, it was the candy, right? Watch out for the people that try, come here, little baby, I'm gonna give you candy. Now it's money. Now it's the attention, right? We got to figure out how do we have these conversations and build this up in our community, because that's what's missing. There's no accountability from our parents. And it's going to get worse because we are in times right now. You heard in the opening, Google's laying off all these people. The economy is changing. What's going to happen? People are going to become desperate. You have women out here who are selling their children. Okay, I sent out an article to the people on the team. There's women out here utilizing their kids for sex to pay bills. Right now, it is tight. These are the conversations we don't want to have about. Okay, but that's the conversation that we have. What about these parents, these aunties? All right, that you go to jail and your kids is left with some other folks who don't have the same upbringing as you. What happened when these kids go to foster care and nobody's there to protect them? We got to have those conversations as well. But again, community, how are we holding each other accountable? How do we stop encouraging this behavior by liking and supporting this stuff that we see on the internet? That's where we need to be going.
I just want to jump in real quick. Sharice said something um, profound where she talked about accessibility, right? So we can elevate the problems. We all know what they are. We see it, but we can actually start to activate a solution in real time, right? So if we understand that most of the accessibility is on social media, then what are the small things that we can do? Like, what would it look like for each and every one of us that are on this call right here to dedicate one post a week to something that uplifts our young boys or our young ladies, something that doesn't glorify what the issue is, but something that elevates their self-esteem or their self-worth or something to that effect. So it's like we can actually start to bite this elephant in small pieces, with each and every one of us making an impact in our own circles and in our own network, right? Because we know what all the problems are. We've all talked about them. But until we start activating some real plausible solutions that each and every one of us can do, little small things, what would it look like for us to get funding for all the young ladies that are on this call to have some pepper spray, or whatever it is that we can not only arm them while we're equipping the people on social, and we've lost the outlets that we used to have. We had the Black church. We had other civic organizations that were open 7 days a week that were preaching this message of hope, healing, and transformation. So now that we don't really have those like we used to, because I think it was AR that talked about AR or John that talked about your fathers and going to your fathers. But I agree with that. And what happens to the girl that goes to her father and he's actually the one? So how do we continue to provide outlets that talks to the girl that constantly is, feel like she's overweight, or the young man that feels like there's no other way? I think we could take these small bites and start talking about solutions rather than continuing to elevate the problem.
So, David, I'm going to jump in there. The first thing we need to do, one, is consistency. We got to get more people in the community that love on our young people. Okay, I heard you talk about the church. The first thing is we got to get these churches back in order. Okay, there was a big article a couple years ago in New Jersey where the churches was prostituting the young ladies in the church. So first we got to get some leaders who can lead by example, for one. First, we got to have some spaces that are sacred to the people, right? And that's vetting people, but we got to get involved. We need peer-to-peer mentorship. We need the elders in the community to pass the torch to the young people so that they can start the healing process, right? We got to find other ways to empower the young people with resources so that they don't become transactional. And that takes all of the adults, but we don't listen to our youth. So the first thing is we got to be willing to be listening first. We got to understand what's going on. And this is why today's conversation is so important from the youth. First, we got to listen to the youth. Then we have to be consistent. Then we got to make sure the people that are leading are actually leading and holding our sacred spaces. Then we got to get the community to invest in our young people so that they can have alternatives to make money, to have opportunity for schooling and information. That's where we start at. Now, how do we get involved? We need all the people in the community to get civically involved, because these very issues that we need to address is going to take our civic duties to put legislative processes in place to make sure that our young people are protected. That's the first thing. The second thing off of that is these spaces and these conversations is important because we need vulnerability. Just like Brandy, just like the young people talked about their experience, what happened. There's some other young folks and people in the community have had these experiences. How do we talk to the older guys in our community? Because some of these predators are right in our community. I see these old dudes driving around the school at 3 o'clock in they nice cars, stopping and talking to the young people. When do we hold them accountable? See, a lot of this behavior starts from the elders. I remember when I was in high school, none of the girls in high school, they didn't want to talk to us. They was talking to the dudes who was 30, 40 years. I remember it. But we thought they was cool. Now I'm older and I know what they was doing. I think you was a predator. You get what I'm saying? We got to call that out in our community first. That's the problem. But see, in our community, we embrace no snitch culture. Oh, well, you can't say anything. But that's the first thing we got to change. How do we change that? You see a 40-year-old man at a club with a 20-year-old, that's a problem. You see a 40-year-old man with a high school student that he dated, that's a problem. Too many times in our community, we turn our head. It is not okay. We got brothers in the barbershop, young girls walking by. They, ooh, she thick. We got to check them because I do it. Hey, brother, that's a little girl. What you talking about? Because that's where it starts. We got to start there. The little things. When we hear it, we got to correct it. That's the first thing we got to do.
You know, not only that, but these issues aren't even addressed in school, because I had to think back for a minute. I've never been taught about human trafficking. I had to pick up on these things when I would, you know, scan my area, have these conversations with my mom, my parents, my family. I was never ever taught about human trafficking. These schools don't speak about it. They don't talk about it. You know, I had a peer who was posting her body and posting herself in this clothing, like my mom said, you know, bras and panties, where she's getting money for this. She's thinking that it's okay, but she wasn't ever taught that it's not okay, because she's not taught the dangers of, you know, there could be a man who's going to lure her into coming outside and getting some money from her or getting some money from him, where she could just get taken anytime that she gets vulnerable to this. So these girls aren't getting taught anything. And it begins with school. It begins with, you know, being a young lady being taught in middle school about human trafficking. I believe that, you know, these schools aren't doing their part in that.
So the biggest question is,
I think the community has a lot of organizations and resources that people don't know about. Even preparing for this show, I had looked up some organizations in San Francisco. I'm pretty sure we can put them on the screen, but I didn't know about any of them, not one. And I found 4 or 5 human trafficking resources, organizations, places in just the city that you can go to for resources, or if you see something and you don't want to tell the police, you don't feel comfortable telling the police, you can tell those organizations. You know, they do classes, they are not necessarily self-defense classes. They workshops, they talk to people, give information, and I feel like most of the time we just don't know about the organizations in our cities that are either go towards that or we don't have them. But I think it's important to find those places and then share things like that for the next person, even if you don't need it right now. You're sharing that for somebody that does. So I'm pretty sure we can add some of these to the screen at some point during the show. But there are plenty of resources.
Yeah, Kendall, put some of theirs in for people that's watching in Oakland and the East Bay, and they do work in San Francisco. Love never fails. Vanessa Russell's the executive director. She's been on our show before. She deals with human trafficking. There is a number of organizations. The problem is we have to make it cool to have these conversations. I heard AR said, somebody said it earlier about the conversations in our house. And this is where sometimes church can divide the information coming to our conversation. In the Black community, we got to have conversations about sex. We got to start that conversation. Too many times in our community, that conversation is not happening in the home. Right? We got to get over the and what it sounds like and really have the real conversation with our young people. And I think it's gonna take you all, right? When David said what he said, it's about all of us. Now you're aware, you have information. This conversation here, how do we continue the conversation is the bigger question.
Well, we have to start the conversation.
How do we talk to our friends? Okay, all y'all on social media. I know all y'all on social media. When you see your friend posting something, do you encourage her and say, "Hey, girl, you looking cute," or do you say, "Hey, girl, that wasn't cool. You need to take that down"? See, this is what I'm talking about. The action starts with you. Every one of you on here, the action starts with you. Don't encourage the behavior. So today, the lesson we're going to take away is don't encourage the behavior. Don't go in there and be like, "Oh, girl, you looking good. You off the hook." No, girl, take that down. That is not acceptable. Use your power as well. Young people, use your power as well.
I agree though that it definitely does start at home, because growing up, my family, especially my uncle, he always used to talk to me about, like especially growing up in the Bay Area as well. We have a big pimping culture, big real floor blade East 14 type of culture in the Bay Area. So I think it's important to know the environment that you live in, but also it takes a village, like it was stated earlier. My uncle used to always tell me that I had an option to be a pimp or to be a ladies' man, but I chose not to do that because he knew the impact that it had on the community, and it wasn't a positive impact. And it's also important to think about your I have aunties, I have sisters, I have a mom. How would I feel if somebody else was pimping them on the blade? How would I feel if they were out there being treated this way? So I think as men, we should also take into accountability that we have other family members, friends, and loved ones who could potentially be put in these same positions. So not to put other women that we necessarily just don't know or don't view like that in those positions. And I also wanted to add that it's important to talk to those who are in prostituting or pimping or on the blade to get their perspective, because they're the ones who are really in that life, and they're living those everyday tasks and everyday struggles. So I think it's important to understand why they're doing the things that they're doing. And then this is my last point that I want to make. I feel like in the Black community, this is back to what we wear and how we view what we wear and how people view you as what you're wearing. I guess to how you're supposed to dress how you want to be perceived, correct? So I wanted to compare that to how the Black community does it to other communities, because you don't really see that in the Asian community or the Muslim or whatever other community that it is. I feel like the Black community, we have to do better on just not putting so much pressure on like the problems and finding more solutions, because how I see Asians doing it and things like that, they know to dress age appropriate for these type of events, or dress. And when you're 10, you shouldn't be having on these short shorts. Like, it's certain things that they do, and I feel like we could take some notes from that, because we, as the stats say, we do have the highest percentage of human trafficking and sexual whatever it was. But so I think it's important to just look at how things are already being done, and maybe we could take notes from that to improve.
Cherie, I want to ask you a question. Cherie, I want to ask you, how much is substance abuse plays into human trafficking from your understanding? Or because I hear some, like here in the Bay Area, there's a lot of guerrilla pimping that takes place. These guys are snatching girls off the street, drugging them. How much does the drugs play a part of this human trafficking issue?
It plays a lot. It's very from the person that's human trafficking the girl to the woman that's been human trafficking. It's both. It's very, especially when they're younger. The craziest thing is the younger they are, the more substance abuse they take. Especially when they're young and they don't know what they're getting themselves into. So it gets really, really deep. But I wanted to say this because it was on my mind to say, because you all said something powerful as far as us being vocal and speaking out. I noticed that we don't speak out enough against what can they do different than what they see that's making money. You know, we can tell them, oh, don't do that. But if they see somebody else making money, they're going to look at you like, you know, I've just noticed it's been a hard time. It'll be a hard fight when you're trying to tell somebody what not to do when you're not giving them another option or another visual of what else to do, especially when they're young like that. You know, you could tell somebody, why would you want to pimp on a girl? You could be a longshoreman. You could make you some money. Why would you want to do that? Why don't you invest in crypto? Or it's like we don't teach them because we wasn't teach that. Let's be 100. A lot of us grew up in our culture, especially as Black people. We grew up and we didn't get taught how to generate generational wealth. So all our kids see is the fancy cars. All our kids see is the weaves. They see all the money. They see everything that we're not showing them, but they see the struggle that we live, but we telling them to stay strong and withstand the schemes of the devil. They can't hear us. But giving them another option also helps. Because sometimes just teaching them and telling them no. I mean, I was a kid once. You're going to keep telling me no and tell me not to press the red button. After a while, if I see everybody else pressing the red button and they getting results, I'm going to press the red button. So I'm learning that when I talk to women now, I come at them and I just be straight up. And you got to talk to them like, you don't got to take off your clothes to create generational wealth. Like, you know, you don't got to you literally can go work and get some real money. Like, you can make 6 figures being a salesperson. I'm learning you got to give these kids a different option of what they can be besides what they see. So I just wanted to say that because I feel like that don't be addressed enough. Because a lot of times where we fail at as Christian people and we want to help these people, they don't hear us because they don't see another option. They don't. You get what I'm saying? They see the glamour. They see the luxury. They don't see what we talking about. But I feel like teaching them about money, teaching them about how to be healthy, be virtuous, be a real woman. How a man's supposed to open up your door. A man's supposed to know how to talk to you. If he talking about anything other than being respectful and getting to know you personally, then why is you talking to him? We don't feed them the right game. That's what I was trying to say.
I want to add to that because it's something I want to say. Going back to generational, right? Like I think something we have to really acknowledge is that the influence. You know, they keep saying it takes a village, and I agree. But the way that it takes a village is different now, I feel. And the village is different, right? We got internet. So like your village might not be your real community anymore, right? Your village might be so-and-so who live in Texas, so-and-so who might live down the street, so-and-so who might live a few cities over, and y'all build and this, y'all forge this relationship, and y'all got families and y'all got kids, and y'all exchange information and have family dinners and you know what I mean, build each other up. You know, that might be your village, but I think it's important to know where the influence is coming from. And if influence, for the most part, as I see, is coming from social media, which is coming from entertainment, athletes, it's coming from musicians, right? Models. I think it's important to find models and entertainers and athletes who have a positive message and present that to the community and push that as a community, right? And as a village, you push this person's message who speaks to what y'all saying, because their voice is going to be louder than our voice. It is what it is, right? They turning up and looking at the TV as we trying to give them information about this and that. So I think it's important to note the athletes who are praying, who thank God, right? Okay, this person is cool. Like, it always trips me out when I see an athlete get awarded or something, or they get an interview and first thing they say is, I want to thank God for this, this, and that. It always brings back to home what I was taught as a kid. Like, I think it's important to find those musicians who are speaking the positive, powerful messages, who are positive masculine figures, right? Who are positive, women, examples of what a woman is, right? Like, I think it's important to do that. Like, I think we can unintentionally think that it's all on us to make a change. And if it in the way that it does take a community, we have to look at who has the loudest voice, right? And then find the loudest voice that most resonates with what our message is, right? It's the same thing if you're in the street, right? The loudest voice that's going to resonate with what your lifestyle you about is going to be the artist you listen to the most, whether it's ESTG and I know some dudes I like, I ain't gonna lie, you know, but I think it's important to identify where it's going to take you, right? So you know the message, you know that you hear that the message resonates with the message, right? Like J. Cole's a positive one. Just real quick, Chance. I heard Chance is a positive rapper. It's a lot of positive. You know, I get into that, right? But my point is, like, parents, like, don't think that it's all on you to influence your kids, because at a certain point the kids stop listening. It don't matter how cool you think you are, how much you know the lingo, how you dress. They're not listening like that anymore. Like, they're not. They're gonna listen to Dirt. You know, they're gonna listen to Mozzie, like you said. These are the guys they're listening to. So find artists and musicians and athletes who can combat with that message, you know, that are positive, that have the success story. Because that's what it is, right? Like Streets was saying, it's about the success. It's not so much about what they're doing or how they got it. It's about the fact that they do got it. And this is the closest example that I have of somebody who's successful that looks like me. So I'm going to identify with this person, right? I hear what you're saying, Pops, but yeah.
Deacon Smith. Deacon Smith. I have to say this, okay? Because I'm tired of hearing this village stuff, all right? I'm going to just keep it real, because we like to keep it real here at both sides. Who the hell is the village? Okay, who is the community? Because it ain't no unity in our community. We got people out here killing people, and ain't nobody saying that. So, do we really have a village? Because that's part of the problem. We keep fantasizing the village. Who the hell is the village? Because these young girls is out here doing this stuff, and ain't nobody saying nothing. These young brothers is out here doing something, ain't nobody saying. So, do we really have a village, or do we have a bunch of people? I think we have a bunch of people out here who are fantasizing of what the village is supposed to be from back in the day, because I don't see it. I'm out here in the community. I don't see a lot of village people. I don't see a lot of the Kwanzaa principles happening in our community. We got to keep it real, because I think sometimes we get caught in this fantasy of it takes a village. Who the hell is the village? We got people in our families that don't even help each other. We got people in the community that don't even help each other. So who is the village that we're talking about? I know people in my own family don't even talk to each other. So who am I taking my cues from? We got to be careful with that, AR. I'm just saying, nothing against what you said, but we got to be careful with who is the village. Because I want to know who these people are. Because we don't show up for each other. I want to know where they at, because I don't know. So this is why the rappers have a little bit more influence. It's the reason why the rappers have more influence. These young people are listening to these rappers because they feel the pain, AR. I'm sitting in the projects too. My mama on dope. That's why they relate to it. It's not because this is who they want to look up to. It's the reality. My mama on dope. She just spent all her money and we ain't got nothing to eat. This is why they listen to him. I just think that's what it is.
Well, I disagree. I disagree in two ways. And I'll say this real quick. First, I don't think when I said village, I was quoting what I've been hearing, right? But I don't think the village is the community. Like I said, I don't think the village is your neighborhood anymore. I think the village is, this is a village right here. Sunday conversation, both sides of the conversation is a village, right? So we're the village that's going to affect change, right? We sharing ideas, we bouncing off each other, we agreeing and disagreeing, right? And we building each other up. That's the village. But I will say this, although a lot of these dudes do relate to what these dudes are saying, I got little cousins, man. They seeing the big woods and the gold and the jewelry and the ice. That's what it is. Like, I'm still a young dude. Like, man, let me get 5,000 lying around, 10,000. I'm gonna go throw some diamonds in them. I'm just gonna keep it real. Like, that's just who I am. You know what I mean? I'm smart enough to know about real estate. I'm smart enough to know, not to be running around doing stupid stuff anymore. But you are who you are, right? So it's not just about relatability. It's about, man, that's the lifestyle I want for myself, and this is the closest thing I see to it, man. And that's what, and I say this respectfully, but that's what I'm trying to say. They're not listening to older people. And the older people got to listen to these kids, man. Yeah, a lot of these dudes grow up and they mama is on dope and their aunties are on dope, right? Like, but not all of them. Not all of them. The ghetto is not the whole world.
So AR,
everybody's listening to this music.
So AR, I agree and disagree, because I work with these young people. I'm in the juvenile hall with these young people. And I'm telling you, when I talk to them, they listen to these rappers because it relates to them. They're not listening to it because this is the lifestyle they want to live. They say, John, I wake up and I listen to their music and it reminds me of my life. So when it reminds me of my life and I'm saying this is my life, and now I see them and they getting money and they got diamonds and they got cars, I think this is me and this is okay. That's the real thing when it comes to this music. I'm just saying. Why do you listen to it, AR? Because it's something that they're saying that you can relate to. You're not just listening to it. You got a lot of game. Why you listen to Lil Durk? Why you listen to EGG and all these little rappers? Because there's something in there in your past, what you've been through, that you can relate to, and that's why you listen to it. It gives you a smell like, man, I remember I was on that, right? I remember when I was sipping lean, and I heard him sipping talking about lean, I was like, man, I remember when we was putting syrup in there. Not that it's okay, but I can relate to that. You get what I'm saying?
I want to disagree.
Go ahead, Dev.
I want to disagree a little bit because I think now that may be true, but I also think that there are a lot of other people who listen to that type of music because it's what's popular and it's what's selling. And the entertainment industry is like, what makes a good song is when people feel like they could do that. They don't always have to literally relate, because half the rappers are not even talking about what they're really living. So let's keep that 100. They're not even really living what they're talking about. So I agree with what you're saying, but I think that a lot of people, they like to feel like I can shoot them up. They just want to feel the vibe, which is why that music also sells. It may be detrimental to our mindset or to our community, but it's not always just, oh, I lived that life, or I related to this in my past life, which is why I'm listening to this. Because really, if you think about it that way, you can listen to positive music and then transform your mindset to relate to that, and live a better. You can try to live a better life and relate to that music. You can stop listening to the music that you feel like you relate with, and try to grow is what I'm saying. If that music has such impact with you, if that makes sense.
But David, I agree with you, but they're selling the pain of Black folks. Okay, they might not live that life they sell because they got money now, but they've been through it and they selling the pain of the problems that people tell it. E40 tell you all the time, I'm only rapping about things that I see here or I'm involved with. So you ain't got to necessarily live it, but if your uncle calling you telling you this just happened on the block and I'm gonna write a story about it, you're going to impact somebody. You get what I'm saying? So some kind of way, because if it wasn't, it wouldn't be reality. It wouldn't be real. People wouldn't connect with something that didn't make a connection. So the trauma and the pain of Black folks is the music that's selling to the people.
Although that does make sense. I completely understand that. I just think that back to the village thing. I think everybody's village is different. A village doesn't have to be a community of people around you. It doesn't have to be your neighbor or the person, literally the person living right next to you. Your village could be, maybe you don't have a mom, but you have a dad and a grandmother on your dad's side, and you have an auntie, or the people that are closest to you that maybe are wiser or older that can guide you that way. I don't think that your village has to technically be the people that you see around them, literally. I think it just means somebody that's close to you, right? So say if that person that's close to you can y'all hear echo? Sorry. Say if somebody that's close to you is teaching you right from wrong at a young age, has that wisdom, is letting you know, okay, no matter what the world is saying, this is what I'm instilling in you. Then you can listen to Lil Durk, and you can listen to Mozzie, somebody who Mozzie, for instance, literally was pimping. Somebody that's rapping about pimping and is pimping. You can listen to somebody like that, and it's not going to influence what you do because your community has instilled in you this is right and this is wrong. So I think it all goes back to influence. You can be somebody that likes that type of music and listens to that type of music without literally doing what they're saying, because you have in your head, I'm not easily influenced. My people have instilled in me that I'm going to do right, even though other people around me are doing wrong.
I want to hear from Chelsea, Brandy, and then David.
I just wanted to say, for the village, I feel like my village is my college friends. Like, we make sure we're okay, and we make sure that we don't do dumb or make dumb decisions when we have liquor in our system or anything like that. So I feel like that's my village.
Well, I completely agree with what Kendall was saying as well, because my morals are completely different than the music that I listen to. And although I do listen to rap sometimes, there are morals that I have instilled within myself, knowing that, okay, I know I can't go down this road, but I just like listening to the lyrics. I know that my village would consist of like my brothers and my mom. I don't really have, a great relationship with my father because, like you guys said, it takes a father instilling positive things within your child. And mine would tell me all of the negative things about a guy and pimping, such like that. And I know that I can't surround myself around negative things like that. So my village is who I surround myself with.
Dave, you want to jump in there, Dave?
Yeah, I can jump in. I think I don't think we give black folks enough credit as being resilient decision makers, right? Like your environment does not dictate your outcome. Uh, we all know, John, AR, I know we all know folks that grew up in the hood on the turf, whatever. You got two brothers, one slang, one didn't. Why? They had the same options, they had the same environment, right? So there's a psychological piece that we have to address also, not just an environmental piece. At the end of the day, we're all faced with decisions that we have to make, a left or a right. And so, with that said, when we talk about, yep, I'm probably older than everybody on this call, but when we talk about a village, it's a collection of tools, people, resources, of whichever direction it is that you're going in, right? So all villages aren't positive, which is why we have gangs and we have other types of things like that. That's a village too. They just do different things. And so when I talk about a village, for me personally, and John, I invite you into my village, right, to share with other people. I have at least 100 black men, and I'm not talking about the 100 black men. I don't really care for them much, but I have 100 black men right now that I can call in a moment's notice, where we provide financial literacy, we provide resources, we provide investment for young black entrepreneurs, and I'm talking about the ones that are on the street right now. So when we go to the block, we're telling them not only is there a better way, and we're examples of it, but we're giving them outlets and opportunity. Everybody is not going to get a job at Google or Facebook or some of these other tech companies, but if you can cut the hell out of some grass, we're going to buy you a lawnmower, right? So it's about who you surround yourselves with, and you can listen to music without pulling the trigger. So I'm careful with making our black folks dumb, where we can't make decisions based on our environment. And so, like AR said, this right here, what y'all doing, John, I applaud you. This is a village right here. So how can we create more of these boxes of content that replicate, where we can, spread this thing all throughout the country?
Yeah, that's what we're trying to do here, man, at both sides of the conversation. And this is what it's all about, changing the narrative, trying to have it. This is why we created this. This is for our people, for our voice. And I'm not going to sit here and say black folks are dumb. And I'm not going to say they're not capable of making decisions. But when you're in predicaments and situations, you get what I'm saying? It becomes more easier to just fall in line with what's going on. And it's very challenging to get out of that. And David, I'm glad you got 100 black men, because I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of brothers. I ain't got 100 black men. I can't even get one brother in the community to come help volunteer, David. I don't know where these black men are. I know
Right here, John. Right here. Right here. You got one player. You got one.
All right, we gonna connect, but I appreciate that. But and again, I don't want the conversation to sound like we're dumbing down black folks. But I think black folks in the community has a delusion with reality, and we gotta sometimes call out our own stuff. We too quick to point out everybody else what they're doing. White folks is doing this to black folks. Chinese is doing this to black folks. Latin is doing it. But black folks got to take accountability for some of the mess that we do in our own community. We keep the pot cooking with mess every day. Okay. And there's not enough people in the community that's holding people accountable and making sure that they're doing the things to make the change. There's a lot of opportunities, but I deal with these young folks. All right. And this is the dilemma. It's a challenge, David, to get these young people to think about work and Google and other opportunities when they feel like I could go down the street and break in his car and get $5,000. I could go run in this person's house and get $50,000. You go work for 2 hours, 5 hours a day, but I could go out here in 3 minutes and take somebody's wallet and get all that. And that's some of these young people mentality. Not all, but a lot of them, that's their mentality. So that's the challenge that we have, because a lot of times we give them the resources to do it, but they go to work and they say, John, I go to work for 2 weeks and I only get $1,000. I can go bust their window out and get enough laptops and all that. I could make $5,000 in an hour. You know what I'm saying? So we got some things that we have to work on. And I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying it can't happen, but these are the challenges, because we got a lot of resources in San Francisco for young people. And I'm telling you, these young people, because of the gangs, they can't go anywhere. They want everything. They entitled, and they just want to have everything brought to them. You get what I'm saying? So how do we fix that? You know what I mean? And that's one of the areas that's the challenge, because it doesn't make sense to them to go work. And I don't know why they think like that, but they just think, I go to work for $1,000 a month, John. That's all they pay me, $1,000 a month. I can go rob somebody and get all that in 3 minutes. That's the mentality sometimes with some of our young folks. And how do you combat that?
You can combat that by a lot of ways. Like, you got to really teach them. Like, they only listening and they only know how to bip cars. They only know how to pimp because they was willing to train. It's honestly, learning the game is just like learning the law of life and just being a regular civilian. You have to learn. You have to train. You have to get quick, good on your feet. If I give an example, me, when I go see girls all the time, I dress who I am who I am, and I notice they still cling to me and they still listen because they see me. When they see you, whether you a preacher, whether who you are, but you in yourself, you're not trying to be holier than thou, you just being 100. When you come to them, you talk to them, and you talk to them with common sense. You got to teach them, like, yeah, I know what it looked like, but have anybody taught you about your 401k? Like, you don't even know about your 401k, and nobody taught you about your credit. Like, let me sign you up real quick. Like, when you talk to them, you got to talk to them like you feeding them the game. Just like somebody taught them how to bip a car, you teach them that the same way. You just do it in the same pot. I just learned how to finesse it in my own way. Just like I talk to my people, I talk to anybody like that because I feel like they understand it. Because when I try to talk all proper and, God prepares your table before you, I got to talk to them raw. Like, look, you can sit out there and you can keep playing, but why not, while you in the midst of figuring out your life and God working on you, let me help you. Let me help you plant some seeds real quick. I mean, you making money, let me go on and help you invest in. You ain't never thought about getting a house, bro? Let me check your credit score. I talk to them like that. You got to come at them raw because at the end of the day, once they start trying to make money, once they start living a certain lifestyle, dressing a certain way, they think they grown. So I just finesse their brain like they grown. Well, what is you really doing if you grown? What is you really doing? You making all that money, and what are you doing with it? I finesse their mind because I feel like we try to come at them so humble, and that's okay. It's okay to, I know we change, but sometimes you got to let your street, because that's why God changed you. He changed you because he needs you. He needs somebody like you. Sometimes you got to keep your essence in certain things and in certain levels. Like when I come at them and I talk to them and they see how I dress, they be like, and I start talking about God, and then I hit them and I start aligning them properly. Like, I know you feel like you making hella money, but your face and your beauty, that phase, like, what is really your value by the end of the day? Like, what is you really doing? Like, what you really doing with it? And when you talk to them like that, you help them and you kind of lower them, because it's manipulate you kind of trap them into getting better. I know it sounds far-fetched, but it actually works. I notice when I try to come at them holier than thou, they can't hear it because they like, girl, well, I don't hear none of that because she making money, she getting money, I'm getting money, I've been getting money. But when you come at them raw, like how you are, like, what are you really doing? Like, where is the money? Like, what do you have to show for it? That car that's gonna get mileage and it's gonna mess up, that depreciates as soon as it rolls off the lot. I talk to them straight like that. That's just how you gotta talk to this youth. Cause trying to be timid with them, it don't work. They not timid no more. This not timid youth. Their eyes is woke and they see a lot. They overly exposed to a lot of stuff. So being real with them is like the number one key. Just teaching them a different way. Like, you got to keep talking to them, keep training them, keep teaching them. Because if you don't, the streets going to keep doing it. They're going to keep like promoting them to petty crime to big crime to murder. And you know how this game goes. So that's what I have to say.
You speaking, and it's crazy because I was just about to say, sorry, you were speaking, and I feel like it's crazy. I was just about to say, most of the time everybody focuses on starting young, right? Teaching them before they get to that point. But then we have these churches, community organizations, people out in the community that are scared to meet people where they're at. Go to the Blade, go to these places where it's already happened, and then change people's lives. I feel like it's time out for just watching them and letting that happen. If you know that it's happening, you know where the Blade's at, you know where these people are, and people in your own family, and you're not actively trying to change what's going on in your own community, then you're watching it. You're a part of the problem. So I feel like I applaud you. I really do for knowing what's going on and going to try to help that, because most of the time we talk about it and we talk about how we can catch it early before it happens without catching it while it's happening and reversing it. So yeah, that's what I had to say.
Well, first we got to have some fearless leaders in the community that's willing to go on the Blade. I hear you, Kendall. I'm in these meetings. I always hear people talk about meeting people where they at. And I'm going to just tell y'all people that's listening out there, meeting people where they at don't mean having them come to your office. You got to get in the community. You got to go on the projects. You got to go where the youngsters. I'm around all these people. They got all this violence prevention going on. I ask them, when have you last time you been on this corner? They ain't went to the corner, but they get money for violence prevention. So we got to really have a real understanding of what we talk about when we say meeting people where they at, because I don't believe meeting people where they at is at your office downtown or in some cush up office. We got to meet people on the corner. The young shooters, okay? Violence prevention, yes, you got to work with young people and prevent them from getting into violence in middle school and high school. But I'm talking about the shooters. I'm talking about the pimps. I'm talking about the young traffickers that's in the community. Where the people at that's doing this work? Where they at? Because I see a lot of girls walking down E14, and I don't see none of those organizations that get millions and millions of dollars to deal with human trafficking on the block. All right? That's where they got to be at. So when we talk about meet people where they at, all you organizations that's getting money, I want to see you on E14. Set up shop. All right, let's do that. All right, that's what we got to do. But I just had to say that because I'm tired of these people talking about they meeting people where they at, and you never see them in the community. All this violence prevention, and I never see them out there. When the bodies hit the ground, they always show up. When somebody get killed, you see all of the people. Well, where were you at before they got killed? That's what we need in our community. But with that being said,
I have a question that's kind of going gears back towards human trafficking. So, do you guys think that human trafficking in men should be talked about on a larger scale? And has anyone seen examples of male human trafficking?
Yeah, we should be talking about men too. Human trafficking ain't just for women. We got a lot of cougars out there that snatch these young boys up for sexual needs. It happens. They don't talk about it, but it does happen.
They be trying. Sharice, you said you got you nodded your head. You got you heard of it?
Yeah, it happens a lot. To me personally, it's more or less a lot of times when men are human trafficked, it doesn't come across and they don't label it as human trafficking because they feel like, oh, it's a woman, it's an older woman. But a lot of these older women, like, it's a lot of women that have a lot of trauma and they do a lot of damage, and they feel like when they can't get a real man, they will seek a younger guy. And a younger guy, to me, he don't necessarily. I've seen women deal with 17-year-old boys, 16-year-old boys, trying to mold and condition that boy to her liking. Like, to me, that's still human. That is still sexually exploiting a child at a young age. Hurry up and try to get pregnant by this kid. Something is mentally. I've seen a lot of things. I'll just say that. And I just know that men don't get it. Men suffer the worst. Don't get me wrong. I've been through it. So I'm not downgrading my pain. But I notice men suffer the most because men can't really just speak how they supposed to speak. How we could cry, we could get it out. Men can't. They're not trained to do that. So men don't know that they're suffering mentally. Men don't know that they got issues with women because of their mama. They don't know that this girl that molested him, he just becomes overly sexualized. You get what I'm saying? Or he just becomes really angry. Like, men have to hide and shield always how they feel. And I do speak on that because I feel bad. Because men can't heal because they always have to be a rock. They told not to cry. They told to be strong. You get what I'm saying? So they don't express in what they go through. They suppress it. So I feel like that also creates a lot of hurt people effect. You know what I mean? Like, we really don't know what these men went through. Some men have been sexually abused by men. We don't know what men be going through, but like I said, hurt people will hurt people when they don't heal properly. And a lot of times men don't get the opportunity to heal. They really don't. If you really want to think about it, y'all not taught to cry. Y'all not taught to speak out. You taught to hold it in, be strong. Don't be no punk. So that's all I gotta say about that.
What about the teachers out there? It's all over the news. These teachers are having sex with young boys. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about the young man who ran away from home or got kicked out by his parents, and the old lady bought him some video games and keep them in the house and feed them and treat them like, you get what I'm saying? Those are the conversations we don't have. So you're right, Cherise, because I see a lot of these stories, okay? I'm in these digital streets. There's more teachers having sex with minors, women, okay, all across this country. But we don't talk about it. It goes in the newspaper for 1 minute and then it's gone because, like you said, young men, they think that's cool. Hey, I slept with my teacher, but they don't understand what's really happening in those situations. I see the sugar mamas out there buying the PlayStations. What are you doing buying a PlayStation and you don't have a little kid? I'm concerned about you, ma'am. You know what I'm saying? We got to talk about that as well.
Hey, why do y'all think it's different though? Why do y'all think it's different? Like, why? Because, like, I'm gonna keep it real, right? Like, when I was in school and I'm younger and you see your substitute teacher and you think she bad, you being flirtatious, you actually listen to what the teacher say, you trying to just get in the teacher good graces, right? Like, why you think it's different outside of what Cherise said as far as the psychological kind of, little process that, that each, the male and females go through and how we express pain and how we express, how we grieve. But, like, why do you think it's so different though? Because, like, even as I'm hearing it, I'm just being honest, it doesn't sound as bad, right? So I'm trying to understand. I'm just keeping it real. It doesn't. Like, to me, I'm trying to understand because I don't see myself as being dominated. Maybe that's a part of it. I don't see myself as unable to defend myself. Nobody's about to just come and hit me over the head and she gonna drag me away into a cave, right? Like the old caveman cartoons, right? Like so in my head, it's
AR, that's not how it happened. It's mental manipulation. So,
but that's what I want to hear because it ain't happened to me. So I just want to hear, like, how is it different? Like, I want to hear, like, how.
It's different on many reasons. Like, for one, you gotta look at it like this: a young man, and I'm not a man, but I'm just telling you from experience and the things that I've seen. When a man is young, yeah, it looks cool, right? Like, yeah, he dating an older woman. But have you ever evaluated why is this older woman, instead of nurturing this young man and being a role model or being nurturing to him as she's supposed to. You're supposed to protect children. Let's get deep into it. You're not supposed to be looking at a teenager. You're not supposed to be looking at kids. You're supposed to want to protect somebody. So you got to ask yourself, what in their right mind, why would a woman want to sexually expose a child like that? Why would you want to ruin him before he can make the decision to even know if he's ready to make that decision to be sexualized and all that? Like, they just become angry. And I notice a lot of men become overly sexualized. Every man that I've known that's been molested, whether it's from a female or male, they're really overly sexual, hyper to the 10th power. Like, it's something wrong. And they wanted the same thing that happened to them for some. Let's take it back. Let's look at R. Kelly. Don't nobody want to speak on it. R. Kelly literally was molested by his sister. You understand me? So when she was doing all that stuff to him, as he grew up, he ended up liking it. And what he do? He did that to all them little girls. Everything that she did to him was this done to the little girls. Hurt people. Men, it just seemed different because you guys are masculine, right? You guys don't cry. You guys have the power and the control. You're logical. You're not emotional. You can literally do things and you won't hurt yet. It comes out in a different way. You guys lash out in a different way. So it becomes deadly. Because you guys are different from a woman. A woman, we get emotional. We gonna cry out. We might get a little angry, but not like a man. You guys don't get to heal or talk about, that's wrong that a 24-year-old will have sex with a 15-year-old. Like, something wrong with her, bruh. But you don't know that because you think it's cool, and it's not. It's overly sexualizing you at a young age. Now you don't even know the value of a woman because you got a 24-year-old that's supposed to be nurturing you and uplifting you, young man. She trying to have sex with you. So why are you gonna take any other woman serious after that? Just ask yourself that.
Well, I think part of it is that rape and molestation that happen to males is part of it, but also as young men, it comes to a point where that clock is ticking and they become overly thought about sex. So that's probably the other thing why they don't think. It's just something in our DNA as men. You get to that age, you just want to experience the sexual activity. and it's hypersexual when you transition. It's something in the genes, the DNA, and all of that. But I think also, like you said, when those type of things of molestation happens, I think you're right, and I think a lot of older women take advantage of the young man because, you know, younger men don't understand some of the things, and we have older men who date younger women because they can't date nobody their age because they know who they are. You know, it's less risk to some women. They ask these teachers on these interviews why they have sex because they felt like they were innocent. They didn't sleep with multiple people before. So it's a lot of reasons behind it. It's not okay, but it's a lot of reasons behind it. But I think young men, all right, as men, we are taught to hunt. Okay, when it comes to that sexual part, it's in us to hunt. So that's part of it. But I think, yes, when it comes to molestation and things like that, it can hypersensitize those emotions and those feelings. Oh, that was a brief pause of silence there. Everybody's thinking it's getting deep in here. I don't know what's going on. Y'all all right? All right?
I was going to say I have a question.
Go ahead.
Well, I had a question. Let me look back. I'm sorry. I wrote it down.
Well, while you look, Kendall, I wanted to. Do y'all remember what happened with the Wayfair, the Wayfair scandal? What are y'all thoughts on that? Like,
Can you inform us a little bit?
So they said that there were pretty much like cabinets and furniture on Wayfair, and they said that they were selling kids through it. The cabinets were going for like 11,000, and you know it was going for a lot of money, which it should never have been that much. So, I just wanted to know you guys' thoughts on that.
Well, before we answer that question, Nia, I want to also add this on. And I won't Cherie before we get out of here because we're getting close to the end of the show. But we got to give some tips to the community to be identifying people that's being human trafficked, right? We got a bunch of things taking place in this country. We got all these people from Ukraine coming to this country. What about those young children? All right, they putting these laws in there to give people, you know, access to citizenship. What do you think about those young kids that's coming in here that's going to stay with these families? That's going to be some of them taking advantage of these people. How do we identify in our community somebody's being trafficked in the community? We talk about the pimping culture. We don't talk about the branding. Nobody talks about the tattoos. How do you identify? You got 5 or 6 girls with tattoos on there representing this pimp. So, like, those are the things that we got to teach our parents, because there's some parent out there before we leave today. We want to make sure that they are doing the right things to check on their little babies, okay? Not only their social media, but what are they doing? When your young kids is asking for tattoos, what tattoo are you getting? Why this tattoo? Like, we got to get into some of those quick tips before we get out of here, because we got about 15 minutes. And I want to make sure that our community is woke when they leave here today. And Cherie, you can lead it. And then y'all young people, you know, talk about it, because I think how many people in y'all DMs? You see what I'm saying? Because we don't tell our parents that, because I know these dudes is like in people DMs, young girls, asking them, can they fly them out? Oh, I could buy you something. Oh, you cute. Who's monitoring that? Young people, when do you speak up and tell your parents, hey, this old guy keeps coming in my phone, or he keeps saying inappropriate things? We know there's a lot of inappropriate pictures of private parts that goes to people, males and females. What are we doing about that? When you got chased or somebody pull up on you, what are you telling your parents? Those are the things that we got to touch, those tips, before we get out of here today. And then we'll give everybody a minute to give something back to the community. But to the Wayfair thing, it just ties into that, Nia, because I know all these situations happen. We talk about bringing deported people and people into our country. There's going to be some people that's going to try to take advantage of them, rich, poor, and otherwise.
Well, I think to start it off, you could just start by asking like the basic questions, like can you leave your job when you want to? It's things like have you ever been threatened, or has your family ever been threatened you? What are your living conditions? Are you being paid to do your work? It's like, it's kind of just getting to know like their job, and just more about each I guess individual and the things that they're doing. I remember, just to give a little story, I was working at this hotel, and this man had came in. We believe he's probably human trafficking, but you don't really know for sure. But his appearance was very dirty. He was trying to use a Cash App card to pay for the hotel, and then he paid for one night, and the second night he left, and we found in the room that he had cameras and a whole bunch of stuff set up in the room. So it was just like paying attention to those details and being aware of your surroundings is important. And I think to have those conversations with the youth and those who are being human trafficked is also important. Anybody else got some quick tips?
I would say as a
Yeah. Oh,
sorry, go
my
ahead.
bad. Being more vigilant in your kid. It's not about you don't have to be super strict. It's the littlest things that you can do. Just watching what your kid watch. You know, just like AR said, just seeing where they mind at. You don't even really have to speak it, but I really think what's really important is seeing where your kid is at mentally, because you can start seeing where they're going in the life they want to go to. You know, just being very aware, like as a parent, as a community, even if it's not your kid, your godson, whoever, start really just letting them show you where they at, so you can help guide them where they need to be, because they just need guidance. That's it, you know. But before we can guide them, we got to see where they at. That's just all. Just be more vigilant and aware. That way you can teach them to be aware of their surroundings and teach them what's okay and what's not okay. Just be more aware of what they're doing and where they're going and who their friends are, what they doing after school. You know, give them extra activities. Like, keep your child busy. That's like the main thing. Just keeping them busy, keeping them active, and teaching them. That's all I gotta say.
Wow, very powerful. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, I would share two things. One is making sure that we as adults don't find ourselves doing the very thing that we're trying to mentor them out of. Young people see, young people hear these phone calls that we don't think they listening to. They hear it, they not sleep. So make sure that we're leading by example, because they don't want to know how much you know until they know how much you care through how you care about yourself. And then the second thing is, if you're doing that, then make sure that I think Sharice said it best around, and AR, being being observant, right? If you notice a switch in your child's behavior, if you notice that they're not being as vocal, or as whatever the shift is, pay attention to that. Ask, you know, not invasive, but probing questions. Also, give positive affirmation. Make sure we telling our young ladies and our young men how beautiful they are. Right? I mean, there's nothing wrong with. I kiss my son all the time. I hug him. I tell him how much I love him. I tell him how handsome he is. I talk to him about his penis. I don't call it a little wee wee or a little tutu. You know, so having real talk conversations, but being observant is super important.
I definitely appreciate that, David. I talk to a lot of moms and youth that I mentor. There's too many of our young people, especially in the ages of 6, 7, 8, knowing what's going on. We got to adults. We got to go back to some of those old ways. When you're talking business, send the kids to their room. There's too many young people having adult conversations, talking like adults, because they listening. We as adults got to be aware these young folks are observing. They sponges. They watching everything we do. If you in there with your girlfriends and you twerking and you got an 8-year-old watching, then she think it's okay to twerk. So again, our behaviors as adults is what we got to watch. I see too many adults twerking at parties with kids. I've been a couple parties. I had to leave. I said, look, man, y'all grown women ain't finna be doing this with these girls over here. I got to go. Right. So it's just things of that nature we got to be definitely aware of, because that influence is real, man. Our young people, and they see their parents do it, and they think it's okay. Well, mama did it, you know. So we gotta be real careful, all of us. This is the time to have accountability on us all. Nobody's perfect, but we got to put these tasks, these checklists together so that we can make sure that our families are protected, our young people are protected. We got to start putting a value and privacy and secrecy when it comes to conversations. That's adults' conversation around our babies. We just got to do that. But Nia, or did anybody want to say anything?
I had kind of a final question that I wanted to ask Sharice and David, as people that have worked with people that have been human trafficked. What do you wish more people knew or understood about human trafficking, and then the fight to end human trafficking, that you feel like other people really don't understand?
It comes from with us. It come with us speaking out. Don't get me wrong. I'm not gonna deny or deter. I still struggle every day. Every day it's a mental battle, spiritually at war every day. But what I've learned, I'm able to help my friends. I'm able to help women that God has just brought in my life out of nowhere in the weirdest ways. Was when I spoke out, when I wasn't in fear to tell them, like, I know what I look like, but let me tell you what I've been through and let me show you how you can get through it. And it ain't gonna be easy. And it's gonna be a fight every day. But when I talk, you have to learn how to be able not to be afraid to reach out to these kids. Cause I know it's uncomfortable. I know you feel like they're not gonna listen. But I remember when I didn't listen to my big brother when he was, taking care of me. And I remember when I went through something and God called me out of it, I remember every word. Sometimes they not gonna listen right away, but it's still meant for you and it's called for you to tell them something at that moment. Because sometimes you got to help prepare their table before them in the presence of their enemies. And they need that. And a lot of times we not speaking out because we feel like, oh, we don't want to say nothing because you feel like they ain't gonna listen to me and I ain't a rapper. I'm not okay, but that's not your call. And when you are called, and if God puts you in a place where you see somebody doing something, if you meant to say something to him, say something to him. That's just not enough of that. We're not teaching them the consequences. They're not knowing that there's somebody that outlived it, and there's a consequence to everything that you're doing, and you got to slow down. And you kind of, it's like, I'm tired of seeing people just let these kids suffer. I'm tired of letting women that know they was hella fast when they was younger too. They just watching these little girls be fast. Let her know what come with that. Let her know that she can get pregnant. Let her know that she can get raped. Let her know she can get killed. Ain't nobody speaking up. So it makes it hard, and it hurts my heart because they can continue to do this learned behavior that they're watching on TV. We need to speak out more. We acting like we that old. You was not that old. If you can still talk and your mouth still move, you better speak up. And I'm done.
Wow, very powerful, Queen. Thank you. I just want to say this to you, Cherie, and all y'all. I thank all y'all, but Cherie, thank you for being vulnerable. I keep telling people the power of healing is through communication. And until we get more Black folks in our community that's willing to tell their truth, we cannot change the narrative in our community. So thank you for being powerful. Thank you for having security. And thank you for being able to tell your truth without feeling any kind of way. Community, I hope you appreciate this, because I know some doors is going to open up. Some boundaries is going to be set. Some people is going to come forward. Some young person out there today is going to their mother and say, hey, this happened to me. This guy pulled up on me. Make sure you're ready for the conversation. I'm excited. But with that being said, y'all, every good thing comes to an end. And today, we are approaching the end of our show. We have to get out of here. The Niners just scored. Okay, they up. It's the fourth quarter. We got to get out of here. The Bishop has to scream for a minute. But before we go today, I want to give everybody an opportunity. We'll start with Kendo, then David, then Devin, and we'll work our way around. I just want everybody, before you leave today, give some parting words. Give a shout out to anybody who helped mentor you, whatever it is. Give something back to the community before we leave today, before we close out today's show. So we're going to start with Kendall. Kendall, talk to the people, young lady.
I got you, John. What they are saying. First, I want to thank God. No, I'm playing. I want to thank our guests for coming on here. I really appreciate you guys for spending your time on this call. I know it's a lot of other stuff going on, so I really appreciate you guys for being on here. I also just want to leave the community with this. I feel like right now there's work to be done. I think that this was extremely productive, talking about it and talking about what we can do and, resources and stuff like that. But I think that now is the time for action and going out into the community and into, where you live and the areas around you that, need help. That now is the time to act on that. So that's what I want to leave you guys with.
And thank you, Kendall, for your community service, your leadership as a young person, being a part of this conversation, reaching out to people. It is very important when we have these youth conversations that y'all are a part of this and lead it. And we just thank you for continuing to do your part in the community. And again, it only could go up from here, y'all. We're going to keep having these powerful conversations. Our youth are coming up with some powerful topics that really impact our community, adults and elders of the community. Y'all always say y'all want to hear what the youth think. Tune into the youth show. They always talk about some phenomenal things. So, with that being said, Brother David, give some part words to the community, King.
Man, I want to give a shout out to John and all the powers that be from both sides of the conversation. I'm always going to uplift my seed, Kendall, loving you always. But if I could leave one thing, it would be to anyone experiencing human trafficking or sexual exploitation, always know that your voice is your superpower. And that's what I'm going to leave.
Wow, very powerful. And David, thank you for being a king and raising a phenomenal young person. And we just honored to have these young folks here. And this is what support looks like. And for all the people out there to say, where's the black dads at? Powerful. He's here today. The Kings showed up. This is what it's all about. We're going to continue to have these conversations. And Brother David, I will be reaching out to you because I want to make sure that I'm a part of the brothers and how we move it. I want to get 100 brothers that I can depend on. Thank you, King. Brother Devin, come on and speak to the people, King.
First, I'd like to thank our guests for coming on. All three of you guys are very, very well spoken. I think we had a good, productive conversation today. What I want to leave with the community is just always to have more conversations. And if you feel anything, just speak up, say your piece, so that way a solution can be solved. And then I just want to shout out my village. That's my family, and be both sides of the conversation. And yeah, and go Niners.
Man, right on, Devin. We appreciate you for your leadership. What you bring not only to our organization, to the community, I know to your college community, your skill set, and we just continue to uplift you and pray for your success and your greatness. I told you have something powerful in you, and you headed some great places. You, AR, we got some phenomenal young men. We're going to continue to build our young brotherhood up, and I'm just proud of you, Devin. So keep doing what you're doing, King, and we here to support you. Sister Nia, the Miss Nia, go ahead and talk to the people.
I just want to thank you guys for coming on here. This was a tough conversation. I didn't have too much to say, so you guys really did enlighten me today. So. And thank you to everyone who tuned in.
And thank you, Nia, for always, being a leader and just being here. Sometimes it ain't always about speaking. Sometimes about listening. Sometimes it's power in listening. All right. But just watching you develop and grow as a young queen in the community, proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep being a leader. And keep listening and giving action. That's what it's all about. Now, to the sister, Cherie, the powerful sister. Come on and say something to the people before we get out of here today.
I just want to tell all of you guys, thank you. Little do you know, every day this is a healing process, and you're helping me heal, and you're also helping me be a voice for somebody else. So I take it all as a blessing. I just want to tell all y'all thank you. And whoever listening, I pray that you listen and you hear. And if you need me, hopefully he put my Instagram up for you. You can always DM me. I'm always here.
All right. Thank you very much. We will put it up on the screen so that I've been putting it up, but they'll see it on the screen. Miss Brandy, this is our young, both sides of the conversation. She coming to join our youth team. Young, well-spoken, phenomenal young queen. Holla at the people, Brandy.
First I wanted to shout out John for allowing me to experience this and be on the youth team. I also want to shout out my village because there are a few things that I've gone through, and I'm glad that people, have listened to my struggles and, pushed me through and empowered me. What I want to leave with the community was that something that I was told, your struggles don't make you, and that you can make who you want to be, and nothing should hold you back ever. And that's all I wanted to say.
Wow. Thank you, Brandy. Very powerful. We know you got a bright future, and being around these young, phenomenal people like Kendall and Devin and Nia from the youth team. And as we continue to grow our youth team, it's just going to help just fill you up with a lot of life and energy. You have some young, powerful leaders here, and they in college. And I know you headed that way because you're very talented, okay? And you got some people you can lean on now. And this is we talk about building a network, building a community. So just looking forward to having you on our youth team. And man, it's going to be some great things, some great conversations coming up with your perspective because this is what it's all about. But thank you again, and looking forward to continuing to work with you and building up this youth team. Now to the deacon, A.R. Smith. This is my deacon, y'all. This is the deacon, A.R. Smith. Holla at the people, A.R.
Man, well, thank you, Bishop. First of all, I always say this, but I truly mean it. It's a blessing to be, a part of both sides of the conversation. It's a blessing to be on Sunday conversation. Just these are conversations I wouldn't have if I wasn't here. So it's just a blessing to get all these different insights and different experiences. I appreciate, all the, the guests that came and everything y'all shared, because it added to just my viewpoint of the world. You know, I kind of saw the world how I saw the world, but it kind of helps me to see the world a little differently outside of my experiences. As it pertains to the topic of human trafficking, like everybody just listen, just remember your goals to get to your destination safely, and your goals to get home safely. So just to be aware of what you're doing, be mindful who you're going with, be mindful of the people who invited them, you know, get as much information about where you're going, you know, with your situation. And as far as just the parents out there, like I know I said that you know, the influence, you know, are the entertainers and the musicians, and I stand on that. I think that's where the most of the influence come from. But I'm not saying that you're not an influence on your kids, because my dad is a huge influence on me. I love my pops. He a big influence. My mama, I love them. Big influence. You know, so I hope just to clarify, I was never saying don't speak to your kids. I was never saying that your words won't be heard or those seeds won't get watered. You know what I mean? That you plant in your kids. You know, just listen to what they're saying, listen to what they're doing. You know, a lot of times their actions, like they say, actions speak louder, right? You know, their actions that tell you where their mind is at. What they're not saying will give you the questions that you should be asking. You know, because it's too easy to think our kids are perfect and they're not doing nothing, and then, you know, yeah. But just blessings to everybody, and just have a good week.
Man, thank you, Deacon, for being here, being a light, being a voice, and you know how I feel about the work you do in AR, and you know, just being a leader, man. And that's why I said that all of this is about everybody working together, and you know, trying to make change and trying to make things work. It's very important, man. And your leadership is important. You got influence, and I just hope that through these conversations, that you taking out information why you doing your music, because you got a promising music career, that you be mindful of the message and the information that you're giving to the community, because those challenges are going to come. But now, through these conversations, understanding some of these things, you know, just do your part, brother. That's all I can say. Keep building. You got a lot of power, a lot of wisdom, and just love your energy, and just happy to have you here. So, with that being said, Miss Khalees, the mother, the queen of the community, giving back, helping out, want to do anything to make change. You
Yes,
back again. Give something to the community.
Yes, to the community. Please, please, parents, community, do away with the iron fist. There's both sides of the conversation that must take place, and for our young people to come forward and be open to have these conversations. There's both sides of the conversation. And elders, old people, stop telling these young ladies that they're sitting on a gold mine. That's all I have to say.
Wow, very powerful stuff. As you all can see on the screen, the National Human Trafficking Hotline is up there. If you know anybody who may be going through something, please make sure that you reach out and call the 1-800 number, the 188 number that's on the screen. This human trafficking is a problem. It's not going to go anywhere anytime soon. But we're going to continue to highlight these conversations, make sure it's at the forefront of our community, and make sure that our community know that these things are still happening, and we're going to have to do something as a community to stop it. So, with that being said, before we get out of here, y'all know I can't let y'all go without the bishop giving his benediction for the day. I know they don't like my benediction, but they getting it today because my Niners is winning. So I got to get a benediction today before we get out of here. And I'm going to go ahead and get started so that we can go. With that being said, today has been a powerful conversation. You heard from the youth. The youth came here today ready to have a powerful conversation about the things that are taking place in our community that are not always so pretty. When we talk about human trafficking, people being taken, stolen, things happening to them that shouldn't be happening to them. Community, you heard from Sharif. The things that you need to do to watch out for the young people that is in your very care. Make sure you watching them. Make sure you checking the phone. Make sure you are asking the questions that you need to ask to the kings in the community. You heard from the queens. Make sure you are not that person in the community that's driving around our schools, talking to these young ladies. Get some respect about yourself, because we need that in our community. It takes a village is what I hear, but where is our village? Today, you have an opportunity to show up as a village and protect the very queens of our community. This is a hard topic for some people. This is very triggering, but the courage of Cherie, the courage of Brandy, the courage of our youth to have this conversation, the pain that goes along with these traumas, with these issues is very real in our community. You heard from AR. who gave phenomenal comments and gestures of what we need to do to engage with our youth. We have to connect before we correct our youth. Listen again, we have to connect before we correct our youth. Young ladies, value yourself. Understand, transactional behavior could put you in a position that you don't want to be in. Community. Listen, young people, listen, don't just get in cars because you don't want to walk 5 blocks. It might be the car that you don't want to get in. Young ladies on social media, be careful of what you're posting. You never know who's watching. Be careful responding in those DMs for those fly out, just to tell your friend somebody's flying me out. Be careful who you think is really in your corner. There are predators in our community who are preying on you, watching you. Don't let the little likes in the comments tickle your feather and make you think you're going to be better. Don't let the gestures in the comments persuade you to think this person is safe. Make sure you are vetting and having a conversation with your parents. If it's something that somebody is asking you, make sure you speak up. You have to tell your parents. You have to let the community know something isn't right. Community, pay attention. You heard Cherie say the signs, the things that young people are doing. Pay attention to their emotions. Pay attention when they're in the room, when they're talking silently. Make sure you know who's picking your child up. Make sure you put the security on their phone so you know where they're at. Do not be the parent that's not paying attention. Watch the programming that they're watching. Listen to the music that they're listening. You heard AR say, listen and ask questions. Why do you listen to this? Why do you like this? Find out where your young people's mind is going. A mind is very, very important. And if we let the wrong people get into our young people's mind, they can poison the mind of our young people. Young ladies, don't glorify being on social media for likes, showing your body, being undressed. Have respect for yourself and to the elders, the women of the community. Please educate, teach our young women the value of privacy. Teach them the value of keeping some things for themselves and not for the people. We have work to do. This is not over. This conversation will continue. We have to do it. It's going to take us all. There's no, I'm here today, out tomorrow. When we talk about village, when we talk about solidarity, when we talk about these issues that impact our community, we must be together. We must stand in solidarity every day, 365 days a year on all issues, on all concerns, and our youth are our concern. Pay attention. Understand, when you see people saying things about young people, it is not right. It is not okay for old men in the community to make comments about young women in our community. You have to check them. Men of the community, when you hear grown men talking about how good a young lady looks, men in the community, we have to stand up and check these adults. Young ladies, you have to understand that is not cute. It is not okay. Women of the community, don't teach the young girls the transactional behavior. It is not okay to just date a man for money, for the cars, for the jewelry. We have to teach them values, respect, and principles. Let's start working, community. There's an education that needs to happen. You heard Kendall today say, they don't teach us this in the school. We need more of this. Community, you be the school. Families, you be the school. Spend time, teach our young people, educate them in our home. We cannot wait on the system. We cannot wait on the school. And we cannot wait on the foods to give our families and our young people the information. We're going to have to do our part. Self-accountability. We're going to start that process. That's what we're doing here at both sides of the conversation. When we talk about changing the narrative, we believe that through communication, a healing process begins. Today, there's some healing. There was some vulnerability. There was some things that was said. Community, make sure you go back. I know the Niner game on, you distracted. Go back and listen to the powerful words that was on this segment today, because it is some information there that might help you. With that being said, that's the benediction from the bishop. I gotta let y'all go now. The Niners just scored. We up. Pretty Tony, we love you. Pretty Tony ain't calling no more. This is it. Cowboys is out. But with that being said, thank you to all the guests tuning in today. This was great. I am inspired from what I heard today. I heard the brother David say, we have to take action and solutions. Today, I feel like this conversation will push forward the beginning of the solution. Be consistent. Love on the young people. You heard Brother David. Validate the young people. Give out those aspirations and all of the good information that they need. Tell them they're beautiful. Tell them you love them. Give the young people a hug and tell them they mean the world to you. With that being said, our next live segment is this Tuesday for our Hidden Gem Show. We will bring up some phenomenal hidden gems this Tuesday, and then next Thursday we'll have another Educational Thursday. But thank you all for tuning in. Youth team, phenomenal job, youth team, on the 49ers big day. Thank you all for being here. We'll see you all soon. We love y'all. Good night now. Be safe
Go
out there.
Raiders.